Hello, my name is Lainey Miller, and today I will be talking about the 2020 data breach known as Blue Leaks. It was June 19th, a day known as Juneteenth, commemorating the date in 1865 when enslaved people in Galveston, Texas received news of emancipation. Every year since 1867, many Americans have celebrated Juneteenth. But this year, in 2020, the holiday enjoyed heightened attention. In the middle of COVID-19, with Americans glued to the media, video footage of killings of unarmed Black Americans, including and especially George Floyd, suffocated under the knee of a Minneapolis policeman, kindled new and old anger among citizens about systemic racism. People responded in various forms. Some with poignant and prominent art, like this mural. Many others organized marches and protests, both peaceful and violent. The country was abuzz over gross misapplications of law enforcement in the killings of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery, to include a self-proclaimed hacktivist group known as Distributed Denial of Secrets, seeking transparency from and accountability for law enforcement. Distributed Denial of Secrets extracted roughly 270 gigabytes of private data from police websites. The data included communications among officers and details of completed as well as ongoing investigations. The websites were built by a company named NetCentral, and these websites included accounts of more than 711,000 officers at fusion centers where suspicious but not confirmed criminal activity is tracked, the FBI, local police stations, and law enforcement member associations. Fatally, NetCentral's content management service was highly vulnerable to distributed denial of secrets attack. First, hackers entered a compromised user account, and once inside the account, they used the upload feature of the website. Because the content management system was not properly safeguarded, they were able to upload web shells, malicious code that, through SQL injection, gained them access into databases. This diagram illustrates the process of an SQL injection attack. The SQL queries introduced commands to the database, which, when executed, got the hackers inside. What NetCentral should have done is use prepared statements. Prepared statements require that data and requests be sent separately and checked against each other, which would have prevented the hackers from inserting commands as well as data into the database on upload. Because NetCentral did not implement this model, their system was completely vulnerable to SQL injection attack. Distributed Denial of Secrets pulled thousands of account records from these compromised databases, and these account records included password hashes. By trying weak passwords, they were able to crack the hashes of hundreds of thousands of accounts and access the personal account data within. Then they used software akin to PuTTY to transfer these files securely across the internet, unchanged, and into their own storage. They would then, using software such as 7-Zip, make these files compressed for quicker transport. They would then make all of this data searchable online on their website and through their Twitter account as well. The stated goal of this momentous leak was to stop police from keeping secrets from the public, hence the name Distributed Denial of Secrets. So, what kinds of information was disclosed? Within the data leaked by Distributed Denial of Secrets and posted to the web was a great deal of sensitive information. As intended, there was potentially incriminating information about officers, So this information showing their behavior and records of their job performance may put these men and women to risk as well as to higher scrutiny. The way investigations were conducted and the communications between members of the police force shown in this data revealed corruption and racism. So, distributed denial of secrets accomplished their goal. However, side effects included the disclosure of sensitive information about defendants in legal cases, also private information of victims, and information collected about organized crime groups made searchable to these organized crime groups, which is a safety threat. Predictably, such a large breach of private data created quite a mess. Perhaps most notably, however, to the BlueLeaks audience was that data showed the FBI monitoring social justice protests. The Bureau tracked communications about these events, these protests and marches and gatherings, which primed them in some instances to make arrests. How ironic that law enforcement tracked protests against law enforcement, only to be effectively protested against on that web platform that they used to track the protest. NetCentral's company page still shows this message. Not only were law enforcement websites built on a vulnerable content management service, but many other sites of theirs as well. Thus, once BlueLeaks and its methods became famous, many other websites built by NetCentral became targets for similar attacks. NetCentral has learned a hard lesson about SQL injection attacks. I leave you with these two questions. First, do you believe that NetCentral or distributed denial of secrets bears responsibility for this breach, or both? Do you believe that NetCentral should be held responsible for putting so much data on such an insecure website? Or do you believe that distributed denial of secrets malicious attack should be prosecuted because while the information was easily attainable through SQL injection, they chose to reveal many people who had private information? My second question is, what other measures could law enforcement have taken to protect their data? Law enforcement organizations chose to have all these websites where users were able to have weak passwords, where weak passwords were really the only thing standing between an attacker and sensitive information. What are some other things that law enforcement could have done in order to make their data more secure? They could have, for example, used a virtual private network or implemented biometrics for user authentication. These things would have created barriers against attack, but what other things could you think of that would strengthen the security of such information? Finally, I leave you here with the sources that I cited. This attack has been written up in many journals and in many news sources and security websites, as it is very intriguing to the public as well as to people interested in the field of security. And I also have a citation here for the diagram which I used to illustrate the SQL injection. Thank you very much. A final question to consider is, what kinds of measures could law enforcement take in order to increase transparency and accountability of law enforcement officials without exposing citizens whose data is also in police records, such as the victims and defendants involved? How could they go about implementing policies of transparency to an extent to the public, reporting issues that they have found in their organization, without displaying everything to the world.